Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
David Cullinane.
First of all, can I welcome the fact that we have an opportunity to debate the Commission's findings, and if I can start by saying that I've spoken to a number of people who care for Grace, and an organisation who care for her over the last number of years, and her thoughts are in my mind today, and I think from the conversations I've had that Grace is now getting very good care. She's a lovely, beautiful person, and her thoughts obviously are in all of our minds today. The Minister is right. I sat on the Public Accounts Committee that examined this, as other members of this House have, and it was one of the most appalling cases I've ever come across. And I listened to the account of the whistleblowers who came before the Public Accounts Committee when I was a member and told of the harrowing experience of Grace in that foster home for 20 years. And I'll never forget hearing some of the really, really awful accounts coming from those whistleblowers. And they were people who came forward and for the first time not only blew the whistle, but were prepared to see it through to the end. And as we know, they were treated shamefully as well by the state and by those in authority. And I want to commend those brave whistleblowers for coming forward. And obviously, this was a deeply distressing case, but what was most distressing about it was that there were so many red flags missed over so long. This was the worst case of out of sight, out of mind that I have ever seen, that Grace was left in this foster home for 20 years, and as the Farrelly Commission has said, and you said in your statement, Minister, for years on end, there was no visits for many social care workers. She was literally left in that home despite very, very serious allegations being raised by other families in relation to misdirects, and yet Grace was left in that home. And it wasn't just the Grace case. We've had since the Emily case. And again, Emily was a female who was brutally raped in a nursing home. Again, there was a report into that case. Again, it found shortcomings in relation to safeguarding. We had the Brandon case, which looked at 104 incidents and reported on 104 incidents of inappropriate sexual behaviour by a person in that care home, in that setting. Again, a report, again, recommendations. And at the core of all of it is safeguarding. When Grace was in that foster home, for 12 years of her life, she was an adult. If Grace was still there today, or any person in very similar circumstances, as we sit here, as we debate this report, they still do not have the legal protections of safeguarding. Safeguarding legislation still isn't in place, despite all of those reports, despite all that we have seen. That is still the case. We still don't have mandatory reporting in relation to allegations of abuse or neglect for adults in care settings. That is absolutely astounding. Mary Lou MacDonald and myself have met organisations that have been crying out for safeguarding legislation for years. Care Champions most recently, the Irish Association of Social Workers, experts. In fact, there was one safeguarding expert in relation to the Emily case who went public to say that there was an attempt by HSE officials to actually alter the case file in that situation. That's what was happening, and yet still nobody is held to account in any of those cases. Nobody in the HSE or elsewhere has been held to account for the failures in relation to Grace. And we cannot mince our words. And I want to finish on this, if I can, Minister, because we can't do justice to Grace in any 5-minute contribution that we have, but we have to acknowledge the failures. There was individual failures where red flags were raised, and I believe not only missed, but ignored by people who should have known better and people who should have done better. There were systemic problems across this case and many more cases where, again, institutional accountability has not been accepted. And there also has to be political accountability. And the political accountability has to be taken by government. And I think it's shameful as we debate this today, we're debating it still at a time when we don't have the most robust safeguarding of adults and protections for adults in care settings. And that, it has to be said, is on the Oireachtas and most especially on the government.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.